All right, friends, it's time we have a little talk about a principle I like to call don't lose your ADA. This should be a foundational premise for almost everyone in Cardano and in crypto in general. How do I avoid involuntary forfeiture of my crypto assets? Rule number one should always be don't give up custody. Give me custody or give me death. Rule number two is especially don't rely on the custody of centralized exchanges or their platforms if there are rumors afoot about their solvency or anything else at all that might cause a bank run. No one knows the future. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is officially your cue to get your assets off Binance and out of their centralized stake pools as fast as possible. In crypto, it truly is decentralize or die. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the heightened level of panic developing around Binance, Emmergo launching Emmergo Media and Cardano Spot, the now unsealed indictment against SBF, a huge scientific development, which we'll cover just for fun, a congressman going to bat super hard for crypto, and making some big accusations at Gary Gensler, and a small court win for crypto. If you already knew that this was a political cartoon created by Benjamin Franklin in 1754 to depict the disunity of the American colonies during the 7 Years' War, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Please join me tomorrow night. I will be live streaming the Pavia Plaza test event, live event. We're going to be in Pavia live, running around. It'll be me, Jay Crypto, Subcritical, Timmy from Cardano Ecosystem News. We will be hanging out in Pavia in the Cyberpunk Plaza sector. This will go down at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. UTC, 1 p.m. Sydney. Small heads up, this live stream is going to happen tomorrow. I may or may not have time to get out a regular episode as well, but you'll definitely have this live stream. There was once a great action movie called Ronin, starring Robert De Niro. Many of you will be too young to know about this movie, but the important thing is that Robert De Niro's character in this movie said, "If there is any doubt, there is no doubt." This is great advice in life, just as it is great advice when it comes to centralized crypto exchanges. And right now, you should be aware that people have some doubts about Binance. So again, as always, I'm going to be presenting you some things that other people have said. I'm not presenting any of this as fact. This is just a report of things showing up on Twitter, but I think you should be aware of it because you should not be keeping your assets on a centralized exchange if you have any doubts about the safety and security of your assets, your ability to get those assets back from that centralized exchange. And it appears people do have such doubts right now when it comes to Binance. So here's this thread, which is a screenshot of some messages that this poster up here received from this person. I'm just going to read these to you. Let people know to get their funds off Binance. Use my tweet if you want to, or create your own. People need to know. Execs bailing, institutional jump capital fleeing. We talked about that yesterday. And charges coming. We also talked about that yesterday. Just a heads up that a bunch of Binance stories are going to hit the tape this week. Reporters hitting me up constantly. Really? Can you give me any more info? Can keep anon if you'd like. They've confirmed leadership losses. Accounting contacts have serious issues with their POR. No reporter can confirm or identify the parent or ownership structure of Binance and can't track down a meaningful listing of executives beyond CZ. All items and stories that are set to come out from outlets like CNBC, Bloomberg, TruthDAO. He says, can I post a screen cap of this interaction? He says, yes, and you don't have to keep it anonymous. I'm fine with the heat. So there's a lot of this going around, and this is nothing new in crypto. We often have fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But if there is any fear, if you have any fear whatsoever about keeping your assets on a centralized exchange, you should just get them off that centralized exchange. Binance runs a huge number of Cardano stake pools. This hurts our Nakamoto coefficient. This hurts our minimum attack vector. This makes Cardano less centralized. You'll be doing a great service to the Cardano ecosystem if you just take those funds you have on Binance, create a NAMI or Eternal wallet or some other wallet of your choosing if you don't like those two, transfer your funds from Binance to your own wallet, and stake to a single pool operator. Of course, I'm biased because my stake pool is a single stake pool, but you don't have to stake to my stake pool. Stake to any single pool operator. And if you're taking those funds from Binance and they're being staked to a Binance stake pool, you will be helping with the decentralization of our ecosystem. This is really important. We figured out, especially over the last year, but it's been true the entire existence of crypto, the entire over decade-long history of crypto. The most important thing is decentralization. If you don't have decentralization, you don't really have anything at the end of the day. What we've figured out over the last little bit in crypto is that centralized entities, platforms, companies, projects don't have any kind of guaranteed lifespan. They're not like reputable L1 blockchains. I'm pretty sure that Cardano is going to be around in 6 months, 12 months, and even far longer than that. However, if you ask me about any particular centralized exchange, I don't know. And then if you add on top of that, that there are these kinds of rumors flying, that executives are leaving, that institutional capital is fleeing, that DOJ charges are coming, and there are these questions that no one seems to be able to answer, like, can you identify the parent of Binance or the ownership structure of Binance or track down a meaningful list of executives beyond CZ? When these kinds of questions and rumors are flying around, why would you ever keep your assets on a centralized exchange? Why would you ever keep them there on a permanent basis anyways? But why would you keep them there, especially when these kinds of rumors are flying around? I already know the answer. Everyone already knows the answer. Convenience. But convenience can come at a very high price. It's much more convenient not to stop at red lights or stop signs. That would be much more convenient. I would love to be able to drive around and not ever stop at a red light. The problem is that comes at a very high risk. If you never stop at red lights, eventually someone's going to T-bone you and you could be injured or even worse. The same is true with giving up custody of your crypto assets, especially in this kind of scenario. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be this is all meaningless fear, uncertainty, and doubt, like we've seen a million times in crypto. It could be there's absolutely nothing here. In this case, it could be that where there is smoke, there is not necessarily fire. But why would you take the risk when doing the thing that would make you much, much safer would also increase the decentralization of our ecosystem? So this could be false alarm for no reason, but man, it sure makes sense right now to take your assets off Binance. It's super easy. Just go to NAMI or Eternal or some other wallet if you like some other wallet. Open up that wallet, create a wallet in there. You just have to write down a seed phrase. Make sure you send your ADA from Binance to the correct wallet, to your wallet. Double, triple, quadruple check the address before you do it. Don't send it off into the oblivion. But it's pretty easy way to be safe just in case. Here's a little reminder of what kinds of bad things can actually be going on inside a centralized crypto exchange when rumors start flying. So this is the now unsealed indictment of SBF, and we can go through the charges that they're laying out against him. Count one, and we're going to see a lot of conspiracy charges and charges related to the actual act. So count one, conspiracy to commit wire fraud on customers. And this document loads a little bit slow. It's more about where they hosted this document. Count two, wire fraud on customers. Excellent. That's what you're going for. When you're a customer at a centralized exchange, you're hoping Man, I hope they commit wire fraud on me. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud on lenders. Also, lenders, if you are lending crypto assets, another one of your big hopes is that they're committing wire fraud on you. Wire fraud on lenders. Conspiracy to commit commodities fraud. And I love they got both ends of this, the commodities fraud and conspiracy to commit securities fraud. No matter what you think those assets were, the grand jury here is laying out an indictment for each of those. Conspiracy to commit money laundering. That definitely is always in the mix in these kinds of cases. Conspiracy to defraud the United States and violate the campaign finance laws. This one was the only one that was a little bit of a surprise. And it seems like the charges relate a lot to campaign contributions in excess of $25,000, and those contributions being wrongfully attributed to a different person. Remember, it was just last summer that Sam was being heralded as the savior of crypto when he was talking about bailouts of all the institutions that were going under. And now look where we ended up. You can't trust these centralized exchanges. Of course, SBF was supposed to testify as a witness today before the House Financial Services Committee. He got arrested in the Bahamas yesterday, so that wasn't going to happen, but the hearing still went on. This, of course, provided a great opportunity for the people who hate crypto to sort of chalk this all up to crypto just being bad. Crypto is bad, and these things are going to happen because crypto is bad. Luckily, while we do have our enemies, people who hate crypto in Washington, we also have our friends and allies. And on that friend list is Representative Tom Emmer, who made a really impassioned statement to the entire hearing, pointing out that the bankruptcy CEO who's taken over at FTX once this scandal went public, John Ray, same guy who took over at Enron once that scandal went public. So he's very qualified to take over an entity like this in the middle of a giant debacle. Tom Emmer pointed out from John Ray's own report on what was happening at FTX when he took over that this was really about classic failure of corporate controls. And he went through a laundry list of things that were obviously failed points of normal corporate governance at FTX, straight from John Ray's report. And he was pretty Tom Emmer was it was a passionate plea to everybody at the hearing to understand that this was about a failure of a corporation and individuals, and not about crypto at all. And in fact, crypto and the transparency of blockchains had been what enabled the crypto community itself to uncover that things were going awry at FTX. Tom Emmer really went to bat for crypto in this hearing, but he went further than that. He went after Gary Gensler. He said he and his staff know that Gary Gensler met more times with SBF than with anybody else in crypto, and that the purpose of those meetings was a negotiation of a digital asset exchange registration with the SEC that would be beneficial to both the SEC and FTX. For the SEC, it would allow them to expand their jurisdiction into crypto, and for FTX, it would be preferential treatment from the SEC over other industry participants. These are super strong accusations from a sitting member of Congress against the sitting SEC chair. This is not something you see every day. Emmer made the bankruptcy CEO of FTX promise to give the committee any documents he comes across that have anything to do with any kind of interactions between SBF and Gary Gensler. I have a feeling this is not the last we're going to hear about this. This next item is not crypto per se, but I feel like crypto is ultimately aimed at creating this future of abundance for humans. And I feel like this scientific development is also, at least in part, about creating a future of energy abundance for humans. So I would feel remiss in my duties if we at least didn't mention this. So in California, in the United States, there's a place called the National Ignition Facility run by Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. A bunch of very advanced scientists there are working on this thing the size of a sports stadium. This is the target chamber of the National Ignition Facility, and they have 192 or so lasers that deliver over 2 million joules of energy to a tiny pellet of deuterium and tritium isotopes. And the laser energy is converted into X-rays, and then those X-rays cause the deuterium and tritium pellet to implode and create a high temperature, high pressure plasma. So the goal of all this is to create a fusion reaction where you're putting in less energy than you're getting out. This would, if this worked, this would obviously be the foundational science that you could use to one day create something like a power plant, and you'd have this abundant, clean energy to fuel a new era of human abundance. Sounds great. So you're going to see a lot of scientists naysaying this today, and here's why. There's a couple different ways, a lot of different ways you could measure the energy coming into this and the energy coming out of it. And you'll see a lot of people talking about Q total versus Q plasma. But basically what they're talking about is in any system, you've got inefficiencies. You're going to put so much energy into those lasers, and they're not going to be able to deliver 100% of that energy to the deuterium and tritium isotope pellet. There's going to be some loss of energy. So you're not going to be able to put all the energy in. You're also not going to be able to collect 100% of the energy from this high temperature, high pressure plasma. So the goal of this experiment was not to all in Q total, put less energy into this experiment than you got out of it, than you were able to harvest from this plasma. The goal of this experiment was to get to something that the National Ignition Facility calls fusion ignition, or scientific energy break even. They're saying, hey, we know there's going to be energy inefficiency in delivering energy to this pellet, and there's going to be energy loss when we try to harvest energy from this plasma. But let's worry about those things later. Let's first just get to the point where the energy received by the pellet is less than the energy given off from the plasma. Let's hit that point first. Let's cross that 1-to-1 threshold. Let's get more energy out of it than we're putting into it. The pellet, and granted, there are going to be inefficiencies in the system. So they've been trying to get there for 60 years. They've been trying to achieve this for 60 years. This is a big breakthrough. Just getting to scientific energy break even, if they got to a 1-to-1 ratio, energy in, energy out, that would have been a great breakthrough. But they went far beyond that. They delivered 2.05 megajoules of energy to the pellet, and the energy given off was 3.15 megajoules. This is a huge breakthrough. Can this be turned into any kind of energy production device or power plant or anything like that today or tomorrow or this year or next year? Nope, not at all. But is this a giant innovation that will pave the way to some future where we might be able to use fusion energy? I think it is. Finally, more good news. You'll remember me talking about the Ookie DAO case. This was the case where the CFTC had tried to serve a DAO by posting in the online chat box and the discussion forum. This was obviously pretty disturbing. We don't want to, technically be served by any kind of government agency just by them posting in the online chat box or the discussion forum. We want them to have to serve some kind of actual human. So the court has come to a decision on this, and they've decided they agree. For once, we won one of these. We actually won something. And this isn't the entire case. This was just the issue about whether or not the service was sufficient. But the judge actually agreed with the position that I think all of us in crypto would take. And that's that you can't serve a DAO. You can't decide that a DAO is the kind of entity you can serve just by posting in the forum or posting the online chat box, you actually have to serve some humans. It turns out that the CFTC, the court, everybody already knows a couple of humans who are token holders and thus members of the DAO. Those are the founders of the project, these two individuals right here. So the court turned around and said, hey, you've got to serve some actual humans here. You know that these two are or have been token holders, so we're going to need for you to go ahead and serve them. This is a tiny victory, but after what happened in the library case and what might be happening in the Ripple case, I'll take it. I hope you're having a great week. Join me tomorrow night for my Pavia Plaza live event live stream. I'll talk to you then.